was incredible. For those of you who are new to our church and that you're visiting for the first time, we're a spiritualist church. Many of us work with psychic energy along with spiritual energy and what they call spiritualism. And today we are so lucky to have talking to us our Reverend Tamara Bell. Tamara is going to be talking about the gift of Mercury in retrograde. It's never really been much of a gift for me. I don't know about the rest of you. It's usually just after I tripped and fallen, and I think, what day is this? And when does retrograde start? And it seems to trip me up quite often. So I am so excited to hear one of our newest reverends, Reverend Tamara, talk about it.
Yeah.
You're going to go there with this? Okay, there you go. I think it's going to come around here. You got enough?
No, she's got it.
Yeah, she's got it.
I don't want you to trip. Okay, okay. One person a day. Now, we're recording this, so if you know of anybody who has never heard of our church, hopefully you get the CCL Insights so you can see a video of Reverend Tamara speaking and you can share it with friends.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be a good thing.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning. I want to thank Judy for being my Vanna White today.
Yay.
This is going to be an interactive
Presentation.
presentation. I love that. Thank you. I'm Reverend Tamara Bell.
Yay.
Hey, Reverend.
I'm going to start my talk by telling you a few things about Mercury. Then I'm going to talk about the mechanics of Mercury. And then we'll talk about our fears. After that, we'll settle in on the gifts of Mercury retrograde. I'll wrap this up by learning how to work with this particular Mercury retrograde. I found it interesting that many astrophysicists believe that Mercury is the sun's moon. So it's got a lock on the sun the way our moon has a lock on us. So I found that interesting. Has anybody ever heard sun god or anything like that in our history? Yeah, well, Mercury is the direct messenger of the sun. I found that, I just find this stuff so fascinating. In astrology, Mercury can go down to the depths or down up to the highest heights. It can go have a conversation with any planet or point in astrology, and no other planet or point has that same flexibility.
Wow.
I found it fascinating too. As far as I'm aware of, it's the only transgender, the word didn't come to me for a second.
Yeah.
Transgender planet or point that I'm aware of in astrology.
What does that mean?
He, she.
Okay,
So planets and points in astrology are either male or female. And Mercury is both,
wow.
and has always been both down history. I wish to share the sound of Mercury with you. It's interesting how each planet has its own signature sound. You
So
know,
that's it going into out of something, or just living, or
our planet makes sounds, our moon makes sounds. Every planet in our solar system, you can go on the YouTube and ask to hear each planet's sound that comes from them. It's my belief that our planets are actually living beings. Breathing, talking, giving out messages, you know. So astrology tries to scratch that surface of understanding. I wanted to have Judy make a diagram for me, so I'm going to be handing her this.
Technology is wonderful, but. Oh. I'll do my glasses.
Uh-oh.
Tamara? I just, since because of your talk, I wonder if you would like to have a meteorite placed on the altar.
I would love that. That would be
Brilliant.
awesome. Definitely grounding from the gods.
And
Yay.
by the way, Tamara, that is the best description I have ever heard of astrology.
Oh, thank you.
You know, and I have kind of an interest in it. I don't know much about it, but the way you described it, it's our attempt to hear the messages from the
Yes.
planets as they interact with each other and interact with us.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Kenneth.
Wow.
So, has anybody ever heard about the shadow of Mercury in retrograde? The
No.
shadow?
No.
No.
Can anybody here explain
No.
just heard of it.
Can you?
it? So Judy is making a diagram of what happens with Mercury in retrograde, about the point.
Am I doing?
Oh, wonderful. So it turns around. Right now it's in Leo. And it turns back towards Cancer during the retrograde period.
Tamara, does it actually turn around or does it just look like
No.
it does?
We'll be going through that in just a second.
Good.
How does it do that?
So we call it Mercury stations. Now, once a planet stations, and that means hold still,
Mhm.
it actually becomes a point in our, it becomes a point that when other planets pass by there, it gives a signal to them. So it's, in astrology, we make note when a planet goes to that point. And right now, with Mercury, Mercury is in Leo along with Mars.
Oh.
It's been,
Oh, really?
it gets juicier. And the point when it comes out of retrograde, the sun will hit where it had first stopped. So we'll be going through that at the end. So I wish to describe what Mercury in retrograde is. Mercury in retrograde is due to the angles of the sun. So let's say the chart is the sun, Judy is Mercury. Mercury never goes too far away from the sun, only 28 degrees each direction. I'm Earth. As she's coming around the sun, I'm going around her. Now I'm going faster than Judy, so to me, she's going backwards.
Mm-hmm. Right, right. That's retrograde, right?
That's
Yes.
retrograde.
You're a cute Earth.
Illustration.
So who can tell me the closest planet to Earth currently?
Venus?
We're the closest to Earth right now.
The closest to Earth right now. What planet is the closest
Venus?
to Earth?
It's gotta be Venus.
So we,
We got 2 for Venus,
One for Mars.
1 for Mars.
One for Mercury. What the heck? Let's get them all.
What about the moon?
Well, it can't be Pluto, because that's...
That's true.
She got the prize.
Yay! She is the prize. What do you mean? Thank you.
You don't see Earth very well on this map. This is printed out last night, where the planets are currently. Pass that around. So, surprisingly, it's very surprising that Mercury's ever the closest planet to us. I never thought that happened until I went into astrology.
Wow.
So when it's very close to us,
By how many miles?
Is that because the other planets are on the other side?
exactly.
There's
But I found that fascinating. I never thought Mercury was ever the closest planet to us. So during retrograde, it's firing all this information at us. Like ADD. ADD on steroids. This is direct information from the sun, directly fired at us.
Is that because there's not another planet shielding us, or?
Well, even if another planet was close to us, it would still be like, then both those planets firing at us.
Mercury's just super ramped?
It's super ramped.
Okay.
So just like ADD, sometimes the information shuts down. It's too much information and it shuts down. So I just thought I'd tell you about the physics of Mercury in retrograde.
Yeah, great.
So they're both going forward. Our angle is bigger, so her going around the sun, we're going to be overtaking it, seeming like she's going backwards.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, what does Mercury guide for us?
Information,
Aha.
the internet. Anything electrical.
Transportation. Mhm.
Say a prayer for that fan before you put it up. Maybe we can do a little ceremony.
Sounds good to me.
how about vehicles?
Don't buy a new vehicle.
Nope, sign the contract.
You can repair. Yes.
Well, I saw something about Mercury in Sirius. I didn't really read much, but there seemed to be some importance. I don't even, I know somewhat about astrology, but I don't know a whole lot, like you do.
Let's go into some common fears. Go ahead and join us. Keep that.
Beautiful drawing.
Yes.
I'm a good copycat.
You're just good.
So let's go into the fears of Mercury in retrograde.
Being on this planet. No. No, it seems like you're clumsier, that things that don't go right.
Or any check,
Leave
like if
contracts.
your contracts.
Yeah, contracts.
Yeah, you pick something up and it drops 3 times, you know, it's,
Like travel, delays.
Mercury,
Yes.
is the short-term travel planet. Jupiter is long-term travel, and Mercury is short-term travel. So yes, you know, as you're doing your daily running around to the supermarket and everything, then be more aware.
so does Jupiter go into retrograde too?
Yes, everything except for the moon and the sun.
Why did we just hear about Mercury going retrograde?
Because it's the meanest one of all.
They don't mean it Mercury.
Mercury goes retrograde 3 times a year.
For like a
Mars-
month, yeah.
Mars and Venus are skipping going retrograde this year, but both are going to be having their time next year. We can have another talk. Most of the outer planets are in retrograde currently. So it's a big subject. So what other fears do we have when Mercury is in retrograde?
So we have electronics, travel,
What's one,
contracts.
cars?
Cars.
Engines, cars,
Yeah.
Injuries?
Some people talk about communication and relationships.
communication breakdown.
Communication and relationships.
Yes, and during Mercury retrograde, we have a chance to revisit old relationships and old communications to see how these work out in our lives currently. Maybe an old flame comes back into our life, and
Was that a snort, Judy?
Yes.
and we
Ladies
can,
don't snort.
we can actually see the person
Bless you.
would be good to pick up again, or else we can look at them anew from a more mature angle and say, I can finally put that, heartbeat to rest.
It's like, I loved you.
I don't need mine to show.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Does Mercury have, in view of the communication aspect of it, has Mercury got a lot to do with self-expression and the need to express whatever needs to be expressed?
Well said.
I guess that's a yes.
Can you repeat it?
Does Mercury have anything to do with how we express ourselves? It has a lot to do with expressing ourselves. It's the verbal word, it's communication with email, and during this, I'm going to jump ahead. During this particular Mercury in retrograde, since it lined up with Mars, on that diagram, it lined up with Mars as it was going backwards. And both Mars and Mercury have played together the whole summer and will continue to play together the whole summer. Their last conjunction together will be, I think, September 3rd. So they have been, constantly bopping around each other all summer long, soaking in. So the issue on this is Mars is fire. It's jump before you think. And what can happen is, if you combine jump before you think and communication, yes.
Does it have anything to do with earthquakes?
Yeah, midnight off.
So,
Say it again.
I was wondering if it had anything to do with earthquakes.
It should because it's closest now.
Mercury doesn't. But who's got the map of the solar system? Can you see how from Pluto all the way to Mars is lined up in a line? Whenever that happens, there's earthquakes.
Gravitational force.
So is that the earthquake predictor and everybody's working
That's-
too hard?
That's been an earthquake predictor that was very popular around 1900.
What
And
lines
there-
up with what? What lines up with what?
The outer planet.
Well, no, you can see the line of planets. Whenever there's like 3 or more, and there is like 5,
Do they have to be consecutive?
including the sun.
Do they have to be consecutively lined up or?
Yeah, maybe we could pass
Randomly.
that map on forward again, and so everybody could look at that aspect.
You know, like if it's
of
every
the
other
map.
planet, but they're lined up, like 3 or 4 of them, or do they have to be
It has to be
sequential?
like in the order that they are in the solar system.
Yeah, let's pass those maps back up and people can look at them again. Oh, she's gonna show on the.
So how long are they gonna be lined up?
Lines happen all the time, so you can go on where the planets are today, where I got these maps from, and you can see for yourself, you know, where the lineups are.
Okay, yeah, but I'm asking, is there,
Planets are always moving,
okay,
and new
but
lineups are forming all the time.
they can't predict, how long they're gonna be in line like that?
Yeah, you can go on the internet and see where planets are gonna be like next week.
Oh,
know.
okay.
You can do that for yourself.
Tell me,
Okay.
what does the word retrograde actually mean and signify when it's in relationship to this planet? What does it mean?
Retrograde means going backwards to when we look at up at the sky, to us, it was going through the heavens, one direction, and then it stops, and then it goes backwards for a while, and then it finally starts going forwards again.
It appears to go backward.
Right. It appears to go backwards from as we're looking up at the sky.
And that's the rotation, the rotation.
Yes, and it has to do with these planets go oval as they go circle around. No, the planets don't circle around in a circle. They go oval.
Their path is
As they go oval, there's different angles that we get. You know, with astrology, everything is there for such a good reason. I keep seeing the support of the planets. There is no bad situation. There is no bad chart. Everything has got its gifts. And the sun's in there too.
Yeah, this is sense.
Oh, okay.
I don't have a yellow crayon.
The sun I'm including in that, just because it was so close, of the lineup.
So there's Pluto, Saturn, Earth,
I missed
and
Mercury.
She's saying the sun too. That's serious, that's Jupiter.
So the gift of Mercury is going retrograde is.
I wanna know where these two planets came from.
We'll talk about that afterwards. I'd like you to write down all the things that are wonderful to do during this time.
Oh, good.
All the RE words.
Reorganize.
Who said that?
Yeah.
It's all
Say
one
the-
word, reorganize.
Reorganize, my cord won't go that far.
Let's go.
Thank you.
Research is a huge one this time.
Reconsider.
Reconsider is awesome during this time.
Reconnect.
Yes.
Recreation? Yeah, recreation.
Recreation is
There was one in
huge.
here, what was it? Research, something, reconnect. There was another reflect. Reflect,
Oh, reflect,
thank you.
yes.
What do we call it?
So as
Recall.
the heavens above pull us away from our electronics during this time.
Rewire.
She said rewire.
Anybody?
Rewind?
Rewind, yes. Especially since the two planets have been playing together all summer long and are going to continue to play with each other through September 3rd. They've been in Cancer. Cancer is all about the past. And so they have both absorbed all this, looking at the history, looking at how they've lived. And then they, Leo's in, they started out in Leo before, as of today, they're both in Leo. That is, okay, we got all this history, let's go forward. They're filled with history, because Cancer is all about looking at the past. And so, yes, rewind, review, reevaluate. But this one, I want to specify this is always true with any Mercury in retrograde, but since the Sun is going to hit the spot where Mercury first retrograded back on the day it stops retrograding. This is a huge point. So I want everybody today to decide what they want to research in their life. Is it health? Is it money in their life? Is it their house that they want to, do something with? I want everybody to think of what they want to make difference in their life. And when the Sun hits that point, around August 1st, while it's still in retrograde, the shadow that she had here, for about 2 weeks after August 1st on, for about 2 weeks, if you quiet your mind, you're going to get your messages.
So it's like reevaluate and restructure.
Yes.
This might be another class, United States, and how it's being affected, is that the answer with this Mercury in retrograde?
Yes. My workshop is about all the planets which are opposite, which are going in opposition to all this that's going on, Mars and Mercury and the North Node, shooting directly into the powder keg, lovingly known as the meat grinder.
Lovingly known.
Okay,
Is
translate, what's the meat grinder? Are we talking the White House? What?
Pluto, yes.
Oh, okay.
Pluto, Saturn, South Node in Capricorn, which is government. So wild times at Ridgemont High.
And that happens when?
All year long, that's what my workshop is how this powder cake is affecting you personally.
And when did it start?
I believe it started with the first solar eclipse this year, and it's going to this particular go round. There's other go rounds happening at least until 2024. Some astrologists say 2026, but this particular go round with this particular powder cake is culminates in January 2020.
Really? Oh, well, we get the new president.
Well, I guess we put the energy there.
Oh,
That's okay, I can
might
do
have
it.
to stand up.
You're
You're
gonna
real. Stand up.
So, it sounds like during the retrograde, this is more a time for like thinking, researching, maybe planning, but is it a bad time to make any kind of like decision? Like you said, don't buy a car, or like I need to find a new place to live. So should I not
Whatever you
choose
need
that
to do, yeah, you can do whatever you need to do during. Don't let Mercury retrograde hold you back. Just have a friend read the contract after you read the contract. You know, during Mercury retrograde, it's so easy for you to think that something's being said. And actually, the person doesn't mean it that way.
Yeah, yeah.
So you need alternate people to look at your contract and say, this is how I'm taking the contract. Are you taking the contract the same way?
Nope. This is lasting the rest of the year, or how long does this Mercury retrograde last?
Until August 1st. And then it goes into a shadow period for about 2 weeks.
What does that mean?
So,
It means we get peace.
and you'll get your answers during those 2 weeks. So it takes Mercury a while to get back to the place where it first retrograded to. Did you see how she had the one dot and then further back she had the other dot? It takes a while for the planet to then go back into Leo and start its playing with Mars again. And some people felt like we had Mercury in retrograde last month. They noticed some symptoms.
My computer wasn't happy.
Judy says her computer wasn't happy. So we had some retrograde-esque type of activity. What that was all about is Mercury and Mars were both out of bounds. So the sun has its area of the sky it goes. The planets all play within that area most of the time. Every once in a while, a planet will get out of bounds from the sun's hold, either above or below. We call that out of bounds. The planets no longer play fair. They no longer listen to daddy. And, parties on, anything can happen. So both Mars, the I'm gonna do it planet, and Mercury, the I'm gonna communicate it planet, we're playing together out of daddy's care.
So Tamara, go ahead.
So if I understand you correctly, when you say this is a time for research, so for example, I'm researching a new career direction, So is that about really like exploring what is out there, and then from August 1st, in those 2 weeks afterwards, that the clarity of the direction will become clear?
Most likely, that's,
Is that, I mean, is that a good time, or
Listen,
is it,
but really watch what happens.
That's when you should be most receptive.
okay,
Receptive.
okay.
Well, Mercury is extremely intuitive and receptive time, the whole Mercury retrograde. So I shouldn't say wait until August 1st, because Mercury retrograde turns you in on watching yourself, instead of us, you know, what's YouTube saying, what's TV saying, you know. This is the time that we are receptive. And so, just this, the whole time. But this particular one has an extra blessing.
Tamara,
What are the dates, the exact dates that Mercury went retrograde and moves out of retrograde?
It's on your program. Everybody should.
Today, August 1st.
Today, 7th. August 7th.
Today till
So,
August 1st.
when
Isn't it on the
Mercury's
program?
retrograde, should we be reflection, meditation, all the inward?
Yes.
Is this why way back Mercury was considered the messenger of the gods?
It's my belief. She just said, is this why we thought Mercury was the messenger of the gods way back?
makes sense.
It's my belief that we're just learning stuff that the ancient people knew.
And Tamara, we're running out of time.
Okay, so, one last question. Yes, Kathleen?
So you said that Mercury is retrograde 3 times this year. How many have we had so far?
So this is our second.
When is the third?
I don't have it at the top of my head. It's
Seriously?
usually 3 times a year. Every once in a while, I think about 2 years ago, we got lucky and got a 4th one.
So since it's in Cancer, does that mean that it's, that it takes on the elements of the Cancer sign?
Yes, so it's my opinion that because Mars and Mercury have been joined up so much, Mercury's going back into Cancer, and then finally gonna come forward and join Mars again. I think this whole Mercury and Mars dance the whole summer is all about feelings, you know, all the Cancer stuff.
Yeah.
Turning in, homes being important.
I know, I'm a Cancer, right in the middle, July 7th.
And I want to thank everybody.
Yay! Woo!